This video is going to outline how to get started with calisthenics as a complete beginner. It will cover areas of confusion such as regressions and progressions, and outline in detail how to actually start your journey, how to structure your trainings, and most importantly, how to progress so that you don't get frustrated and stuck with your trainings. Calisthenics has a lot of advantages over conventional training. For starters, many of the movements can be performed almost anywhere, with little to no equipment required. It has a very low barrier of entry, with low to no costs to get started. And there is the added benefit of not needing to commute to an overcrowded, overpriced gym with all sorts of fuckery going on.
This guy again.
Some of these advantages do sound trivial, but if we factor in a 30-minute round trip to and from the gym each day, it quickly becomes clear that this is precious time that could be used for actually working out rather than sitting in a car. Not to mention that with calisthenics, you have the ability to take your workouts with you anywhere you go. So it's a perfect option for someone who's always on the move, doesn't like being confined to an overcrowded gym, or just needs the flexibility and budget-friendly options that calisthenics provide. Calisthenics uses your body weight as a form of resistance. This is where the biggest barriers, but also the biggest benefits lie. I see a lot of issues, especially when beginners start programming for calisthenics, and a lot of questions start to pop up that we'll do our best to answer today. The main one being from heavier individuals who are unable to perform any repetitions on the basic calisthenics movements, such as push-ups, squats, and pull-ups. If you fall into this category, don't stress. The beauty of calisthenics is that you can progress or regress almost any movement to adapt it to your current ability level. Take the push-up for example. Someone that is out of shape, sitting at 120 kilograms, is going to have a lot harder time performing the movement than someone who's just starting out at 60 kilograms. This is because the heavier individual obviously has a lot more mass to resist and move. Bodyweight exercises put large strain on the joints, muscles, and ligaments. So when starting out, it's essential to pick a difficulty level appropriate to your skill level to avoid injury and setbacks. We're going to regress the push-up to reduce the difficulty level as an example. If you are unable to perform the regular push-up with strict form, you are able to regress the movement to either knee push-ups or decline push-ups to make the movement easier until you are able to perform the regular push-up and build toward performing the movement in its entirety. And of course, you can also do this with pull movements, such as the pull-up, by regressing the movement to Australian pull-ups or using resistance bands to perform assisted pull-ups until you can perform clean, unassisted pull-ups on your own. This adaptability is what makes calisthenics so practical and something that almost anyone can do. One thing that's also worth noting is that it's not necessarily a bad thing starting out heavier, so don't let this discourage you. After all, the more mass you are moving, the stronger your muscles will get. However, the joint and ligament strain unfortunately make this pretty unsustainable without risking injury, which is why you'll notice that most advanced calisthenics athletes are incredibly lean and don't carry much fat year-round. A byproduct of a consistent and well-structured calisthenics program is weight loss. So provided you are progressing with your journey and combining it with healthy lifestyle and dietary changes, then just trust the process and enjoy the increase in strength and improvements in body composition that are inevitable if you stick with it for a long enough period of time. The next area we'll be covering is programming. There are an endless amount of ways that you can structure your trainings. However, some basic guidelines are that a good program should consist of a variety of exercises that target each muscle group evenly. This will help avoid muscle and strength imbalances that could in turn lead to an injury over time. This means that there should be a combination of push, pull, legs, and of course core exercises in your program. There is no shortage of exercises to choose from, and of course more advanced movements to work toward. I won't bore you by listing all of them today, as we'd be here for a while, but I will give you an example of how I personally structure my trainings to get the most out of them. Again, we want to target each body part evenly. We want to place an emphasis on form, or in other words, performing the technique correctly. And another one of my parameters is efficiency. Trainings should take up part of your day, not your entire day. So you'll want the workout to be both time efficient and effective. My trainings are structured as follows. Start with a light warm-up. I generally do some dynamic stretching to get the blood moving, joints lubricated, and help prevent injury. I'll then choose one push exercise, one pull exercise, one leg exercise, and of course, one core exercise. To finish your workout, you're going to want to do a cool down. This will help kickstart recovery, and I find is a great way to incorporate some flexibility training and other movements you wouldn't normally perform. For the cool down, I'll generally stick to strong static stretches and plyometric holds. This is an example of a basic full body workout that as a beginner should be repeated 3 to 4 times per week. This allows for adequate recovery in between sessions. For each of the movements, I'll do 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions, provided I'm training for hypertrophy. If it is a strength-based program, then you can lower the repetitions and up the intensity by adapting the movements to be more difficult. If it is an endurance or performance-based program, then reduce rest times and run the program as a circuit. Note that none of the exercises chosen recruit the same muscle groups, so supersetting each movement won't be hindered by already fatigued muscles. To begin with, keep it simple and stick to the basic fundamentals until you are ready to progress. Far too often, I see people who change what they are doing constantly to seek novelty. I can't recommend this approach, as it leads to loosely structured workouts and a lack of trackable progress, which can be very discouraging for someone just starting out. Stick to the movements that you choose to progress in for a good amount of time, and aim to perform at least 12 clean repetitions before changing things up. Results will come if you just trust the process and stick to the fundamentals, including correct form, progressive overload, and consistency. On the other end of the spectrum, I see people that are completely burned out from doing more than a lifetime worth of push-ups. Changing things up, provided it's not too often, can be a great way to introduce some novelty to workouts and keep things fresh and engaging. This also has the added benefit of improving adherence and commitment to the program. It can also reduce the risk of repetitive strain injury seen in athletes that perform the same movement patterns over and over again without adequate rest and recovery. Our body needs to learn to move in different patterns so that it doesn't become rigid and stiff. So have some fun and change up the exercises that you're doing from time to time, just not too often. A bonus tip is to really plan and structure your bouts of exercise. Get specific with when, where, and how you plan to train. The reason behind this is that studies have shown that formulating an action-specific plan greatly increases the likelihood that you'll implement a new habit such as exercise. So use this to your advantage. This brings me to the final focus area around starting calisthenics as a complete beginner: progressive overload. Making progress is arguably one of the most important areas of any fitness endeavor. Progress ultimately drives results, and it is human nature to want to progress, which is why humanity is in a constant state of change. A quick disclaimer is that progress cannot be rushed. Remember earlier when I emphasized the importance of both consistency and duration of your training program? That is to set realistic expectations. To give you a metric of how small but consistent progress can accumulate, think about adding 1 push-up to your workout each week. Short term, this doesn't sound like much. Long term, however, paints a completely different picture, as at the end of the year, that's 52 extra push-ups that you could not perform just 12 months ago. Now that we've discussed the importance of progress, we can move on to how to actually progress. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, but there are definitely some guidelines and fundamentals that should not be neglected. Once you've figured out your base level of fitness and structured a program to suit your specific goals, you'll want to start to track your workouts so that you can document your progress and aim to improve each session. Progress can be made in a number of ways. One of the easiest ways when you're first starting out is simply just to add more volume, just as you would with conventional training. For example, if you are currently able to perform 5 push-ups with strict form, aim for 6 push-ups the following week. When working in this way to progress, it is important to still place emphasis and focus on form and the cadence that you're performing each rep. This minimizes the risk of injury and ensures your muscles spend an adequate amount of time under tension for growth. It also makes tracking progress much more realistic, as you're not compromising on form and technique just to get an extra repetition. Another option is to just add more sets. For example, if you're doing 4 sets of push-ups for your push movement, make that 5 the following week. The downside to this approach is that just adding more and more volume is not a sustainable way to make long-term progress. You'll quickly hit a point of diminishing returns, where workouts begin to take far too long for your average athlete, and intensity generally takes a hit when duration increases. Luckily, as I stated before, there's more than one way to progress. Once you're comfortably hitting 10 to 15 repetitions on each of your chosen movements, you are going to want to start implementing progressions and working toward the more advanced calisthenic movements, such as the muscle up and one-arm push-up. This has the added benefits of giving you some pretty cool movements to unlock to keep you satisfied and motivated with your trainings, rather than just achieving metric progress. You can also get more creative with your progressions by using a backpack with some makeshift weights, or find other ways to increase the challenge of your workouts. Gymnastic rings also add an extra layer of challenge to movements, as your body is required to stabilize the rings to perform the movement. There really is no limit to how far you can take your calisthenics journey if you put in the time and effort required to progress. It can be a little intimidating starting out your calisthenics journey, so take all the complication out of the process and revisit this guide anytime you need a refresher. Focus on the fundamentals and performing the movements with strict form to begin with. Ensure you are making small but consistent progressions, and results will come in time. Now that you have overcome the biggest hurdle in starting your calisthenics journey, just trust the process and enjoy the journey. And of course, as always, if you have any comments, questions, or abuse, feel free to drop them down below.